Where we are for the autopsy of the girl who played with fire. This is Salman.
And this is Kevin. The Girl Who Played with Fire is the second installment of this trilogy of Swedish films. And first of all, I guess we should say the film is, of course, a continuation of the first film, but it presents a whole new story. Of course, you have familiar characters that were in the first film, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. But I think it sets up a very intriguing story, and what I liked about it, without giving too much away, is that it revolves almost exclusively around the past of the main character, the girl with the dragon tattoo. Salman?
And I think, as we had mentioned in our previous review for the girl with the dragon tattoo also, this character is one of the most intriguing characters that I've seen in recent films. She is fascinating, and I think I was worried that fascination is going to die down. But I think it somehow manages to keep it, and it enriches the film.
And how does it do that? How does it still keep us interested in this female character?
I think this has to do with the story itself in the second one, and I think which brings in more of her personal story around. And in the first one, she was more mysterious and intrigued,
right?
And in this way, we actually get to know her a little bit more. But I should mention, between the two films, I would say the first one, because we had no clue about who she was, I was more sort of like into the story in that context. In this one, the shock had already dissipated, and this was more like, okay, I just want to know more about the character.
Right. In many ways, the film kind of peels back certain layers. It opens up certain chapters into this woman's past, into important people in her past, leads to some very intriguing characters, and relates a bit to this idea of the trafficking of women. So I think the story is on one level, it's allowing the audience to get to know this main character better, but at the same time, it's also unfolding and opening up new boxes of intrigue involving government, police, journalism, trafficking, and things like that. Wouldn't you say?
And I think one difference between the first one and the second one, I thought the first one intriguing thing which was the character in itself was the use of computer and the sort of like the 21st century technology.
Yeah.
In this one, it's not more about that, but it's a more standard thriller about sort of like the crime lords and sort of like, again, as you mentioned, trafficking, and in many ways it circles all the way around back to Elizabeth, who's the main character in the film.
Yeah, absolutely.
The girl with the dragon tattoo.
As we well know, when you do trilogies, the second film is usually the weakest, and oftentimes the sequel is just kind of a joke. Like there's just it just plays on all the established tropes of the first film. I don't think this film does that. I think
except for National Treasure. I thought
yes, of course. National Treasure is right up there with Aliens as one of the all-time. No, I rescind all that. But I think this is an excellent sequel in and of itself. But what were some of the weaker points of it? Because obviously, I think it's coming across very obviously that we drop things every now and then during this autopsy.
It makes it exciting.
Yeah, but so it's obvious that we liked it. But what were some of its weaknesses?
Well, I actually liked the film overall, and I thought that it was thrilling. It did sort of like the setup of a lot of scenes were sort of like it really does put you under the edge of the seat. I think, again, the beginning was a bit slow. I had a hard time getting into the film. And the theme, which we touched upon in the first film also, it's really about misogyny. It's the title of the first film. Men Who Hate Women. That's how the movie was released, the first one, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And I think it's hitting, no pun intended, really on the head with that message. And I think the first one was very intriguing, very interesting from that perspective. But I think in this movie, I just felt it was getting a little bit too much with that particular theme.
I agree. I think in the first film, that theme of men who hate women is kind of, it's implicit. But in this one, it's much more explicit. And I think, for me, that leads to one of the weaknesses I found in the film. The intriguing premise in the first third of the film is never touched upon again in the last 2/3. So I hope that's not giving too much away. But there is this premise about the trafficking of Eastern European women throughout Sweden, and then that plot point is just it disappears. No, I think it's probably going to come up in the third one, but
and it's unclear whether it disappears or not. I mean, there may
Yeah.
be some correlation, but I think I agree. One other thing I should, I mean, if you are thinking about watching this film, there is again violence in it, and also. There is nudity in it, and
Yes.
there is nothing. Not that there is anything wrong with that, but we're just
No.
letting you know it is a Swedish film, so you do expect
Yeah.
some nudity
And there's a sex scene in it that I think is kind of remartful. It's
different than usual American films. Let's put it this way.
A lesbian lovemaking scene that is I'm going to say artfully done, but it goes in directions that an American film certainly would not. Yet it doesn't make it, explicit and really expletive.
Now you also know that two guys are reviewing this film.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well,
I was offended by that sex scene as a male.
do watch the film. I think it's better if you've seen the first film. You can watch this thing again as a film by itself, but I think you will be far more enriched view if you have seen the first one, because I think first one really develops the character beautifully.
In this film, a lot is implied about their, and when I say relationship, I just mean like their working, professional, and possible intimate relationship. But in this film, you kind of need to know a little something about that in terms of why he's so motivated to come to her aid.
And their relation in this film are actually presented in an interesting way. I won't say it more, but it's an interesting way that the two have been presented.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we both recommend the film. Yeah,
Absolutely, it's thrilling. It's a good thriller, and
This is a very
watch
successful autopsy.
it. Watch it before the American remakes come out.
The American remakes are coming out soon.
All right, the autopsy is out, and we'll come back for the third one.